Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about the women who are reshaping our world. Coming up in this edition, we're focusing on France and speak to the minister who's fighting to ensure equality in the land of liberte, egalite and fraternity. Also debunking the myths of French womanhood and the neo-feminist who runs the Crazy Horse strip club here in Paris. But first, and the French Parliament has been voting on a raft of measures to ensure equality between the sexes. For instance, many French women currently earn less than their male counterparts, and laws to bring their salaries in line are often ignored by company bosses. This new legislation also addresses contentious issues such as abortion and extending paternity leave, as Kate Russo reports.
For a country whose motto is liberte, egalite, fraternite, France isn't quite up to the mark when it comes to equality. French women earn 25% less than their male colleagues, while barely 1 in 4 company board members are female. And this is the woman on a mission to change that. Vallaud-Belkacem is the Minister for Women's Rights, with the remit from President François Hollande to give women parity with men at home and at work.
Our objective is to get equality everywhere.
The 34-year-old French Moroccan, who gave an exclusive interview to France 24, has ambitious plans to get women on an equal par with men and vice versa.
Men and women are not equal in the workplace, and they're not equal in the home environment either, because women still shoulder a lot more of the parental and domestic duties than men. There's clearly a link between the two, and we want to tackle this with legislation to reform paternity leave.
One of the minister's flagship proposals is to encourage men to take paternity leave, in the hope that the 18,000 fathers who take time off work will rise to 100,000. Another of her plans to change outdated abortion laws has already been approved by Parliament. From now on, a woman no longer has to prove that her pregnancy is causing her distress before she is allowed a termination. Vallaud-Belkacem is not the first to try to redress the balance between French men and women. Legislation has been passed before, but so far hasn't made much difference.
The first priority is to apply the equality laws already in place, and we've been doing that for the last 20 months. Legislation was passed to tackle inequality in 2006 and 2010, and it should have imposed financial sanctions on companies that didn't comply. But businesses didn't follow the rules and they weren't taken to task.
Yet there is a long road ahead, and not just for private companies. President Hollande may have appointed a record number of women to his cabinet, but still women only make up 27% of French MPs.
Now, joining me in the studio is British novelist Lucy Wadham, whose popular book, The Secret Life of France, spoke about the sisterhood, or rather lack of, here in the country. Lucy, looking at that report, there's clearly a move on a political level to readdress the inequalities that women face in this country. But how does France compare to other nations when it comes to feminism?
I think these laws are definitely going to be a arrow straight to the heart of the French patriarchy, mainly because so far there's been a global sense that things needed to move forward for French women in the public sphere, but they haven't in the private sphere. As you'll see, as you'll feel as soon as you come to this country, patriarchal values are alive and well. And I think that by targeting things like paternity leave and access by women to positions of power, policing that will make a very big difference.
But as an English woman living here, and when you first moved here, and I know you've been living here for quite some time now, but what struck you about just how different it is for women here in France versus elsewhere?
I think one of the most obvious things is the degree to which French women dress and behave and cater to the male gaze. French women appear to us sort of in the English-speaking world as these wonderful, beautifully groomed, elegant, somewhat aloof creatures, and I think that's why there are so many books on this subject.
And this leads to a rather romanticised notion of French women, doesn't it?
Well, I think it does, because I think French women, you know, like the rest of us, are all struggling with things like PMT and the ebb and flow of one's libido and juggling.
And they do get fat.
And they do get fat, and they do have facelifts. But I think that we, women sort of on the outside of French culture, are perhaps romanticising them because we feel that in our post-feminist culture we have lost a certain number of the qualities for which we admire them.
Now, in recent weeks, the media's been full of allegations about the president's love life, and we've heard the sort of debate yet again about the private lives of public figures. But things have changed since the affair of Dominic Strauss-Kahn, haven't they? And certainly, if anything, the Dominic Strauss-Kahn affair became a watershed for feminism in this country, didn't it?
I think in many ways it was a watershed, but I'm not sure that it was a watershed for feminism. I think the main thing that emerged from that story was the very different way in which we in the English-speaking world view inappropriate, as we would call it, sexual behaviour. In France, most of the reactions to that story were shock surrounding the idea that there should have been that intrusion into a man's sexuality, his sexual practices. That was the knee-jerk reaction to the story. And then after a while, French women in particular began to ask, how did this person get away with this very predatory behaviour for so long?
Lucy, we're just going to press the pause button for a moment and take a look at a woman who has been making headlines this week, and the Central African Republic Parliament has chosen the Mayor of Bangui, Catherine Samba-Panza, as the country's new interim president. She takes on the job as the nation's been rocked by sectarian violence. Samba-Panza is widely considered as politically neutral and says she wants to steer her people out of violence and poverty.
Listening to every one of you, I have felt hatred in your hearts. I have felt lots of bitterness in your hearts. Only a mother knows how to bring together her divided sons and daughters.
And here in Paris, one of its iconic locations is the Crazy Horse Cabaret Club. Now, burlesque dance is often criticised for objectifying the female body. Claire Williams went to meet the woman in charge, who describes herself as a neo-feminist.
Welcome to the most Parisian of all cabaret. Welcome to the Crazy Horse.
It's the last place you'd expect to find a feminist. Here at the Crazy Horse, the opening number has been God Save Our Bearskin for the last 25 years. And bearskin there is. Andre Dysenberg is the managing director.
Crazy Horse doesn't create shows that are demeaning to women, it creates shows that puts them on a pedestal somehow, that celebrates them in its own way.
With a show in Paris and a world tour to manage, she's constantly on the go. Her office doubles up as a rehearsal room. Since taking over the club 8 years ago, Andre has boosted flagging audience numbers and encouraged a more female crowd.
I just think in the last few years, the amount of women that come with their girlfriends, like their group of women, and I call them the Sex and the City friends, has been on the rise. So I see women sometimes, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s that come and they wear their heels and their shoes. And that's why I call them neo-feminists, because at the time of my mother, the feminists would burn their bras. Today they put on their heels. So it's a different way of taking charge.
It's not everyone's idea of feminism, and the Crazy Horse often comes under fire for objectifying the female body. For Andre, neo-feminist sounds better.
I think when you say the word feminist, it's already it's almost tarnished. It's almost something, I don't know, maybe men made it all look so bad. That can be, I don't know. But so I like the word neo in front of it because it makes it a little bit different than a certain stereotype image that we have of feminists. But I like men.
17 different numbers are performed twice each night in 2 identical shows.
We're very far from anything that you could consider vulgar or offensive. It's very much in style. It's very Parisian in its own way. It has a lot of chic and elegance.
With 3 hours before showtime, the dancers are practicing hard. Rehearsals are normally off limits, even to boyfriends and family members. Zula Zazu and Hippie Bang Bang say they love their work.
Beaucoup la confiance, la femme, la sensualité, le pouvoir de la féminité en fait que j'ai appris ici.
Incontestablement, évidemment, ça apporte un plus dans notre vie.
We look for nice buttocks in general, proportions about 2/3 lower body towards upper body, 1/3. I don't think we're looking for the ideal woman in general. We're looking for the ideal crazy girl, which has a certain type of body.
The girls perform their final number, dressed up, of course, as crazy horses. So how do you make feminism and cabaret go hand in hand?
What we do is things that are elegant, sophisticated, sexy, but chic.
And that report from Claire Williams. Well, Lucy, there's no way I'd be getting a job at the Crazy Horse given my lack of perfect buttocks, but isn't the manager there reinforcing the stereotypes that women need to be fit and beautiful in order to get ahead? And, I mean, is she really a feminist?
I would think probably not, no. I mean, I think what was revealing about that report was that women that the idea of being on a pedestal was still somehow desirable. I mean, I don't think many modern women aspire to being on a pedestal. It's no fun. You can't go anywhere on a pedestal. It's just another metaphor for a gilded cage. So, and the other thing is this idea of feminism being a dirty word. I think in France it is. And that is why that woman felt she needed to add the word neo in front of it.
Well, Lucy Wadham, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
There's no doubt that what you've just said is hopefully going to provoke some feedback, because that's it for this edition. And if indeed you'd like to comment on what you've just seen or heard, you can check out our Facebook page, France24/the51%, or send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far, and do keep those comments rolling in. Until our next program, bye for now.